Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of our guests today, including Patrick Johnston, standing by from the province, province.com. Brought to you by Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox.
Hop.
Bruce from Wine Country. We've never had a Bruce from Wine Country.
Wine Country?
Yeah.
In the Kelowna area.
Or Naramata, Kelowna, Soyuz.
Sycamoose.
Sure. They make a mean wine in Sycamoose. Shea Weber's involved in it. Mark my words, the happiest person is Hronik's agent. They have Vancouver management over a barrel. 8 years at 9 per is what I'd be asking for. What choice do they have? If they say no and try and trade him, they won't get anywhere near what they paid. 10 more years of pain. That's Bruce from Wine Country
and Bruce,
/ Sycamoose.
Bruce nailed it, because I was told the other day that Hronik, when his contract's up and he's a UFA, he's got him. He's got the Canucks, and that number should be over $8 million. And that's just what I heard.
Contract ends at the end of next season, right?
Yeah, well, but the Canucks can qualify him, and
right.
He's not ready.
As of right now, though.
We're talking about when he's a UFA in 2 years. That's going to be interesting.
Patrick Johnston joins us now from the province on this trade deadline day, a day we find out Curtis Lazar is headed to the New Jersey Devils from Vancouver in return for a 4th-round draft pick. Patrick, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm well.
Trade good. Yes. Yeah, perfect.
Up, you know?
That's a good look.
Very nice.
Very good.
Love it.
He's having some fun.
He's having fun.
I like it.
For the first time.
It can't be deadline here. It can't be a deadline here. We got to make something happen. So I'm just trying to make things a little more serious.
Well, speaking of the deadline, we just talked about Curtis Lazar moving on to New Jersey. Just your I keep asking this question, but just your reaction to that, Patrick.
I mean, a guy that obviously, was brought in to do a job. The penalty killing was terrible. Good guy. Like talking to him. And he gets to go try to win a cup, and that's the biggest thing. And the glut of wingers, got a glut of forwards. This is a team that, in theory, is trying to get younger and trying to stay. I mean, they are, I think, the 4th youngest roster right now. Obviously, that's with even with the 7 guys on IR, I think. But they're trying to get younger. He's a guy that's he's a serviceable player. I mean, certainly didn't hurt them, but didn't do a whole lot. He's a guy that's going to float around the league a little bit longer, I think. Opens a spot for another kid to play.
Okay, when you bring up Curtis Lazar, not you, but to the general you mentioned penalty killing. It's 32nd in the league.
Yeah.
And maybe a little bit better lately. But when you watch the PK, Patrick, what comes to mind? What do you feel has been wrong with it?
Well, I mean, over the course of the season, it was they couldn't keep cross-ice passes from being completed. The toughest shots are the ones that go across the slot, and they weren't giving their goalies any chance. I think it was 16 of the last 17 they've killed off now, and a lot of it is because they're just being a little more patient, a little smarter. We talked with Rick a little bit last night. One of the things he highlighted was the guys just recognizing a little better when to get aggressive and when not to be. And they're finding some success, and obviously Thatcher Demko even commented on it. He's come back, played a couple of games, and he didn't say it, but you understood what he meant, which is that the environment is a little easier to deal with, and that more than anything is helps. Obviously the strength of the schedule has declined to some degree, and it's going to get easier. So they do stand a good chance of not being the worst all time. PK, which was a king 50 years ago, and 67 or 68%. They're less than 1% away from overhauling those guys. So at least they've got that on to their credit.
Put up a banner.
Patrick, the great thing about 12 o'clock today is if JT Miller's not traded, we can stop with the nonsense. What are you hearing about Miller? All week long, it's been crazy, just crazy.
Yeah, there's obviously these reports up there that there was some talks around him. Like I said, my impression was that there was more talk around Besser than around Miller. I think certainly different teams calling. We know that much. That there's a player that teams like, but they want to see what the price is going to be, and realistically, the Canucks value this player, and they're not going to just say this is a salary dump. They sign this guy because they're interested in him, and I think that's kind of where we're at. that they're still looking. I mean, I saw that Hronek trade and I thought there's something missing here. I feel like there should be something else. And I wrote a little bit about that this morning. We're doing a live blog at the website today. I'm just trying to ponder what else they're trying to do. You look, they want young players, they want young centers. You wonder about, some of the connections on this team. We've talked about a guy like Alexis Lafreniere in the past. You wonder if maybe there's something there. But you just kind of line it all up, and you do wonder if there's still maybe something there. I had heard for a couple of weeks they were looking to do something big. You could just tell from their talks around the league that they were thinking big. But we're running close to time, and like you said, if we don't get anything in the next 50 minutes here, then JT Miller's going to be here. That's how it's going to be.
Yeah, and so we've done the retool rebuild conversation. We've killed it to death, Patrick. Clearly, they're making moves to be better next year. Do you see that in going into the summer? Do you see the same philosophy? Because the next pressure point is the NHL draft. They can make deals there, and then you tackle July 1st.
Yeah.
What do you see coming up here? Because this is a big offseason for the Canucks.
I mean, I am obviously very interested to hear what Patrick Allvin says this afternoon.
Yeah.
And I tweeted about this yesterday, I think. It was just a statement of what I was hearing. Fans, they see what the team has done. They've seen there has been something of a new direction. Obviously when they traded Horvat, Patrick Allvin was trumpeting the idea of getting a first-round pick, talking about Atu Ratu as being almost like a first-round pick, talking about how much he values these things. So to see him flip one away, left people a bit confused, because there's just I thought this team was sort of doing a bit of both. I think people understand that they're trying to kind of reset the roster, if you will. And at the same time, they need prospects. They just don't have any prospects. So add some draft picks while you can, and build up that part, and try to sort of do two things at once. And so to see them trade away a first round pick and a second round pick, I think left people very confused. And so we still don't really have an explanation for that. And like I said, that's what I'm going to be curious to see. I think that still is the overall philosophy. We know they're trying to get young. We know they're trying to find, Jim Rutherford said it himself, they're trying to find young players that maybe need a second chance, maybe need a fresh start. I think they're going to keep pursuing that. I think that is the overall direction. And I wouldn't be surprised if they keep trying to build that towards as they go into the draft. We already said no more Miller talk. Well, at least there will be no more Miller talk until the offseason, until the draft comes, I suppose.
That's it.
That's kind of where we're at. Yeah.
And Patrick, we've been arguing about this today when it comes to Curtis Lazar. He leaves. He hasn't finished a full season here in Vancouver. Do the Canucks look bad doing that with over a couple of years left on his contract? Rick's worried about his agent, buddy.
Stop it! I didn't say that.
I don't know. I think this is kind of the reality we're in now, especially with players at his end of the roster. I think those guys know more and more, especially Curtis. He's played for a number of teams before. I think guys like that always know they're at risk of being moved on. I think the dynamics of the overall picture have changed. I think, people always wonder, well, why aren't players more loyal to their teams or whatever? Well, it is things like this, and things like this happen. And I think maybe players might say, how committed are they to me? But there's a lot of other things around the edges, how you set up your organization, what the facilities are like, what is sort of the day-to-day feeling. I think everyone's response when they heard Philip Hronek talk to Troy Stecher, we know Troy Stecher wanted to stay, wasn't allowed to stay, was disappointed that essentially ownership didn't want him back. And, I think there's, and I talked to some other players, so there's frustration, I think, with how things have played out in the last few years, especially, budget related, things like that. And I think those things matter more than anything else. And I think it's not so much what the hockey ops department is doing, but it's what goes on around, sort of behind the scenes, how people feel, how they feel they've been treated. I've mentioned this before. You go back to the COVID outbreak, how frustrated the players felt then, how little sort of engagement there was from above, whether that was management or ownership. That's an ongoing, I think, question for this team. And I think it's something that they need to make clear, how important players are at the center of all this. The players matter. They're the ones who do it. They're the ones who are going to bring people into the stands, and you got to make sure they're happy. You got to make sure Elias Pettersson's happy. You got to make sure JT Miller's happy. You got to make sure anybody that's, Quinn Hughes, Thatcher Demko, anybody that's crucial to the future of this organization, you got to make them happy, and you got to keep everybody else happy. It's just such an essential thing.
I think that's Farhan's tie, but regardless, only you could pull off this look, Patrick. Excellent.
Thanks, boys. I appreciate it. Just like Rick. Just like Rick.
Yeah. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Yeah, earlier this week,
boys.
right?
Yesterday.
Yes, yesterday. Yeah, boys at Farhan and Drancer got
so 64 or 65?
Wow.
39. Come on. 39, Rick.
25, Ricky.
Yeah,
42.
exactly.
42. 42.
Yeah.
42. I got it.
You're older than Harmon.
Yeah.
All right.
Who?
Yeah. Thanks, Patrick. Appreciate it. Patrick
Take care,
Johnston.
guys.
Thanks.